John Miller stood tall as he faced the enormous chamber of the Galactic Council. The room stretched wide, with seats for over 30 different alien species. Lights from above cast strange shadows across the faces of beings with too many eyes, scaled skin, or tentacles instead of arms. For 18 months, Miller had smiled and nodded through these so-called peace talks. Today, that would end. Ambassador Miller, do you find our latest terms acceptable? The speaker was Grax, the head of the Vraxian delegation. His purple skin looked almost black in the dim light. All 6 of his eyes blinked at different times, a trait humans found unsettling. Miller looked down at the document on his screen. The words made his stomach turn. Under these new terms, humans would be limited to just 3 star systems. Meanwhile, the Vraxians and their allies would continue to expand their borders closer to Earth. The room waited. Hundreds of alien diplomats watched him with curious eyes, breathing through various organs, their translators humming softly. No, Miller said simply. We do not. A murmur ran through the chamber. No one had expected this answer. Perhaps you misunderstand, Grax said, his voice smooth through the translation device. These terms are quite generous, considering your species' short history in space travel. Miller smiled without warmth. We understand perfectly. For 18 months we have offered compromise after compromise. We have been patient while your demands grew and your offers shrank. He reached up and removed his translator from his ear. It was a bold move, one planned for weeks. Without his translator, he could not understand them. And they could not understand him without their own devices translating his English. It was a clear sign. Communication had broken down. The United Earth government hereby withdraws from these negotiations. Miller said loudly in plain English, we will not sign any treaty that treats humans as lesser beings. The chamber erupted. Some aliens stood, others pounded on tables. Their translators still worked, so they understood his words, but now they couldn't respond in a way he would understand. It was a deliberate insult, and everyone knew it. Miller turned to his team. Susan Carter, his second-in-command, nodded slightly. Alan Jackson, the military advisor, kept his face blank, but his eyes showed approval. The 5 members of the human delegation gathered their belongings without hurry. Grax moved toward them, mouth opening and closing rapidly. His translator projected words that Miller ignored. Several security drones floated closer. We are leaving now, Miller announced to the room, still in English. Any attempt to stop us will be considered an act of war. The security drones backed away. No one wanted war, especially against the unpredictable humans. As they walked out, Laura Evans, the youngest member of the delegation, whispered, "Do you think they'll come after us?" Miller shook his head. They believe they've won. They think we're retreating because we're weak. The human delegation boarded their shuttle. As they strapped in, Miller's secure communicator beeped. The message was from Earth Command, encoded and brief. Operation Silent Retreat is now in effect. Miller showed the message to his team. It's done, he said. We've bought Earth the time it needs. As their shuttle left the massive council station, Miller looked at the swirl of alien ships surrounding it. Races that had explored the stars for thousands of years. Species that thought humans were just noisy newcomers who would accept any terms to join their community. They have no idea what's coming, Carter said, watching the stars grow brighter as they moved away from the station. Miller nodded. 2 years, he said. 2 years of silence. Then we'll show them what humans can really do. The shuttle accelerated, leaving the lights of the Galactic Council behind. Ahead lay darkness, but also freedom. And in that freedom, humanity would forge something the alien races had never expected. The real work was just beginning. 2 months passed since the humans walked away from the peace talks. At first, the Galactic Council ignored them. Let the humans sulk, they thought. They would return soon, asking for better terms. They were wrong. Ilara Voss stared at her data screens with growing worry. As the head security analyst for the council, she tracked all movement across known space. What she saw troubled her deeply. Minister Grax, the reports are clear, she said to the Vraxian leader who now stood in her office. Human activity has dropped by 97% across all monitored sectors. Grax's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of irritation. They are hiding something. Increased surveillance. We've tried, Ilara replied. Our probes near human space find nothing. Their colonies appear abandoned. Their outposts have gone dark. She pulled up images on the main screen. An empty human mining station orbited a distant moon. The machines sat idle. No lights shone from the windows. Another image showed a farming colony on planet LC-435. Fields of crops stretched across the land, but no humans tended them. The buildings stood empty. They've taken everything of value, Ilara explained. All advanced technology, all weapons, all ships. They've even removed their communication arrays. Grax made a low rumbling sound. They cannot simply disappear. Humans occupy 17 planets and dozens of stations. Occupied, Ilara corrected. Past tense. We believe they have retreated to their home system and perhaps 3 or 4 core colonies. The emergency council meeting that afternoon was tense. Representatives from 32 spacefaring species gathered to discuss the human situation. Good riddance, said the Zoltan delegate, his gray skin flushing blue with emotion. Humans were always troublesome. You misunderstand the threat, argued Susan Carter, the Nilarian ambassador. The Nilarians were one of the few species who had formed friendly relations with humans. They haven't given up. They're planning something. The debate raged for hours. Some believed humans were preparing for war. Others thought their retreat showed weakness. A few suggested disease or disaster had struck them. Meanwhile, in the lower levels of the station, Paul Davis sat alone in the nearly empty cup, a bar that catered to the few humans who still worked with the council. Once busy with human traders, engineers, and diplomats, now only Davis and a handful of others remained. Another drink? Asked the bartender, a 4-armed Brel named Kix. Davis nodded. Make it strong. You know what's happening with your people? Kix asked, his voice low. Davis smiled faintly. No idea. I got the same message as every human outside our core territories. Return home or stay where you are. Communication blackout in effect. You didn't go back, Kix noted. My wife is Centaurian. We decided to stay. Davis looked around the empty bar. Most humans left, though. Back in the council chamber, the debate took a new turn when the Merchant Guild representative stood to speak. Honored delegates, we face an economic problem. The merchant, a small bat-like creature, squeaked. Human goods have disappeared from markets. Their special medicines, their unique foods, their entertainment streams, all gone. This caught everyone's attention. Profits mattered to the council races. Worse, continued the merchant, the shipping lanes near what was human space report increased pirate activity. The humans kept many outlaws in check. Without their patrols, raiders grow bold. As if to prove this point, an aide rushed in with news. A Vraxian trade convoy had just been attacked by Vrikan corsairs in a sector previously secured by human ships. 3 vessels destroyed, 2 captured. The council chamber fell silent. Then Minister Grax spoke the words no one wanted to hear. We may have miscalculated, he admitted slowly. The humans were more valuable than we realized. In his dimly lit office later that night, Grax received a private message from Earth. It contained only 5 words. You haven't seen anything yet. He deleted it immediately. No one could know the humans had contacted him directly. No one could know they had made him afraid. 6 months had passed since the humans withdrew from galactic affairs. What began as a minor concern had grown into a crisis that affected worlds across the galaxy. On the planet Zexer, food riots broke out for the 3rd time that week. The small blue-skinned Zexorians had built their entire food system around human wheat and corn. Now, with no human ships bringing these goods, their people went hungry. "We cannot keep order much longer," reported the Zexorian leader to the council. "Our children need food." Similar reports came from a dozen worlds. Some needed human medicines. Others lacked the special metals that only human miners had been willing to dig from dangerous asteroid belts. Even the wealthy Vraxians found themselves short of luxury goods that humans had once provided. In deep space, the problems were worse. The Vrikan corsairs, once kept in check by human patrols, now attacked any ship that looked valuable. 3 major trade routes had become too dangerous to use. The council sent warships to guard merchants, but they didn't have enough ships to cover all routes. In a quiet corner of the massive council station, Alan Wright worked in his small lab. As one of the few humans who had chosen to stay in council space, he was both valuable and suspect. The council wanted his human insights but didn't fully trust him. A soft knock interrupted his work. He opened the door to find 2 Vraxian officials waiting. "Human Wright," said the taller one, "Minister Grax wishes to speak with you." Wright followed them through the station's curving hallways to a private meeting room. Minister Grax sat alone, his purple skin looking dull under the bright lights. "Sit," Grax said, pointing to a chair designed for human bodies. "I have questions." Wright sat slowly. "I'll answer if I can. What are your people planning?" Grax asked directly. "This disappearance, this silence, it must have a purpose." Wright smiled slightly. "Minister, I haven't had contact with Earth in 6 months, just like everyone else. But you know your people. You understand how humans think." Grax leaned forward. "The council needs to prepare." "Prepare for what?" Wright asked innocently. Grax's 6 eyes blinked in frustration. "Do not play games. Pirates run wild without human ships to help patrol. 7 worlds face food shortages. The galactic economy falters without human goods." Wright looked down at his hands. "You pushed a creative, resourceful, and stubborn species into a corner," he said quietly. "What do you think they're doing right now?" "Plotting revenge," Grax suggested. Wright shook his head. "That's how Vraxians think. Humans are different." "Then tell me." "They're solving problems," Wright said simply. "Every challenge you put before us, every restriction, every barrier, it's just another problem to solve." Elsewhere on the station, in the central market, more signs of trouble appeared. The vendor stalls that once sold human coffee, chocolate, and spices stood empty. Alien merchants who had built businesses around human goods now sold cheap substitutes that no one wanted. A group of council security officers moved through the market, breaking up a fight between a Zexorian trader and a Draxon customer. "It's getting worse," said Officer Jane Lee to her partner. As one of the few humans still working for station security, she saw both sides of the growing crisis. "How long before your people return?" her partner asked. Jane shrugged. "When they're ready." That evening, an emergency session of the council convened. The topic: what to do about the human problem. "We should send a delegation to Earth," suggested one member. "Their system is now heavily armed," replied the military advisor. "Any ships we send might be seen as a threat." "Then we offer better terms," said another. "We admit we were wrong." Minister Grax shook his head. "It may be too late for that." He recalled Wright's words from earlier. What were the humans solving during these months of silence? What new problems would their solutions create for the council? As the meeting continued, a junior officer rushed in with urgent news. Long-range scanners had detected unusual energy patterns at the edge of what used to be human space. Something big was happening, and no one in the council knew what it was. 1 year had passed since the humans left the negotiating table. The Galactic Council had almost grown used to their absence. Then everything changed. The unmanned probe appeared suddenly at the edge of council space. Small and sleek, it moved faster than any vessel the council races had built. Defense systems barely had time to track it before it sent its message to every ship and station within range. The message was simple: "We have evolved beyond your limitations." Before anyone could respond, the probe exploded in a flash of light that left no trace. Analysis showed it had destroyed itself completely, leaving no technology for others to study. 3 days later, at a remote Vraxian research outpost, the sensors picked up an unusual energy reading. Commander Zex ordered 2 scout ships to investigate. "There's nothing out there, sir," reported the first scout pilot. "Just empty space." Then it happened. A human ship appeared as if from nowhere. It was not there, and then suddenly it was. The ship was unlike any human vessel seen before. It had no visible engines. Its hull seemed to shift and change, as if it wasn't fully solid. The scout ships moved closer. The human vessel just waited. When they were within visual range, the strange ship simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. No acceleration, no light flash, no sound. Just gone. "It's impossible," said the Vraxian science officer reviewing the data. "They can't have developed this technology so quickly. It breaks all known laws of physics." But the evidence was clear. Somehow, in just 1 year of isolation, humans had made a leap that other species hadn't achieved in thousands of years of space travel. On the Council Station Harmony 9, one of the few places where humans still worked alongside aliens, scientist Patricia Green packed her personal items. After 5 years at the station's Advanced Research Division, she was leaving. Her supervisor, a tall Malarian named Voss, watched her with sad eyes. "You don't have to go," he said. "Your work here is valued." Patricia smiled. "New orders. All remaining humans in Council space are being called home." "Why now?" Voss asked. "After a year." Patricia closed her bag and looked around the lab one last time. "When you refused to treat us as equals, you gave us something precious. Time to innovate without your interference." "What does that mean?" Voss asked, feeling suddenly cold. Patricia didn't answer. She simply handed him her security badge and walked out. The next day, an emergency meeting of the Council's highest officials gathered in a secure room. No recordings were allowed. No assistants were present. "The reports are verified," said Defense Minister Lore, his voice tight with stress. "In the past week, human ships have been detected in 15 different sectors. They appear without warning and disappear just as quickly." "Are they attacking?" asked a nervous representative from a small world. "No," replied Lore. "They're watching. Observing. They appear near our military bases, our research stations, our fleet gatherings. They stay just long enough to be seen, then vanish." Minister Grax clanged his hand on the table. "How are they doing this? Our best scientists say this technology should be impossible." No one had an answer. The room fell silent until Intelligence Director Kell spoke up. "We've analyzed all data from these sightings," she said. "We believe the humans have found a way to move between normal space and something else. Some kind of space between spaces." The implication struck everyone at once. If humans could move through this other space, they could appear anywhere, at any time. No defense system could stop them. No borders could contain them. That night, a classified report with the highest security clearance moved through the Council's secure networks. Its title, "The Human Threat: A New Reality." Its conclusion was clear. In just 1 year, humans had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Meanwhile, deep in human space, the real work was just beginning. 18 months had passed since the humans walked away from the peace talks. What began as rumors among space travelers had grown into confirmed reports across the galaxy. The humans had built what many now called the Shadow Fleet. The Vraxian border station Delta 7 was among the most secure military installations in the galaxy. Its location was secret. Its defenses were state-of-the-art. No unauthorized ship had ever entered its space. Until today. "Sir, we have an intruder," said the young officer at the sensor station. His voice shook slightly. Commander Czar moved quickly to the screen. Impossible. Our shield grid is active. It's inside the grid, sir. A human vessel. On the main view screen, a sleek black ship hung in space, less than a kilometer from the station. It made no aggressive moves. It simply waited, as if watching them. Weapons status, Czar demanded. All weapons locked on target, sir. Czar hesitated. The last thing he wanted was to start a war with these new human ships. Scan them. The officer worked his controls, then looked up with confusion. Sir, our scans can't penetrate their hull. It's like the ship isn't fully here. Before Czar could respond, the human ship simply vanished. The incident at Delta 7 was not unique. Over the next 2 weeks, similar reports came from military bases across Braxian space. Human ships appeared, observed, and disappeared without a trace. They never attacked. They never communicated. They just proved they could come and go as they pleased. In the Council's intelligence office, Kevin Boyd reviewed the reports with growing concern. As one of the few humans still working for the Council, he had special insight into what might be happening. They'd been spotted at 14 military bases, 8 research stations, and 3 fleet gathering points, said his assistant, a young Nilarian named Trell. Boyd nodded slowly. Any pattern to the appearances? None that we can find. Some bases are remote, others are deep in protected space. The only common factor is that they're all high-security locations that should be impossible to reach without detection. Boyd leaned back in his chair. He had chosen to stay with the Council when most humans left, believing he could help build bridges between the species. Now he wasn't so sure. What do you think they want? Trell asked. To make a point, Boyd replied. To show that they can reach any target, at any time, and there's nothing we can do about it. Later that day, Boyd was summoned to a highly classified meeting with the Council's top military officials. The room was tense when he arrived. Boyd, said Admiral Grex, the head of the Vraxian fleet, we need your insight as a human. What is this technology your people are using? Boyd chose his words carefully. I have no inside knowledge, Admiral. I've been here with you for the past 18 months. But you understand how humans think, said another official. These ships that appear and disappear, what are they? Boyd considered what he knew of human research before the withdrawal. I believe they found a way to travel through what our scientists theorized as slip space, a dimension that exists alongside our own. The room fell silent. The concept had been discussed in theoretical physics for centuries, but no species had come close to making it work. That's impossible, someone said. The energy requirements alone would be enormous, Boyd finished. Yes, which means humans have solved that problem too. A classified report was drafted that night. Its conclusion was simple. During the peace negotiations, humans had been holding back. Their technology was already far more advanced than they had revealed. And during their 18 months of isolation, they had achieved what the Council races thought would take centuries. As the Council debated how to respond to this new reality, a human diplomatic vessel sent a simple message from the edge of Earth's solar system. We are ready to talk again, this time as equals. The Shadow Fleet had done its job. The real negotiations could finally begin. 2 years had passed since the humans left the negotiating table. The Galactic Council had grown fearful of what might come next. The Shadow Fleet had proven that human technology had advanced beyond what anyone thought possible. Now the Council would learn what humans wanted. The U.S. Horizon appeared without warning in the center of the Council's capital system. Unlike the Shadow Fleet ships, this vessel made no attempt to hide. It was large and gleaming, clearly marked with Earth's symbol. It moved past the outer defense grid, as if the powerful shields weren't even there. Alarms sounded across the system. Defense ships scrambled to intercept. Weapons platforms locked onto the human vessel. This is Captain Laura Hayes of the United Earth Ship Horizon. came the transmission on all frequencies. We come in peace to request the reopening of diplomatic channels. In the Council's emergency chamber, leaders from 30 species gathered to watch the transmission. Minister Grax, now the head of the Council, looked grim. "Should we respond?" asked a nervous Zexorian representative. "We must," replied Grax. "They could have attacked at any time in the past year. They chose to talk instead." On the main screen, Captain Hayes waited patiently. She was a tall woman with dark skin and short gray hair. Her uniform was simple but elegant, with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. "This is Minister Grax of the Galactic Council," he finally responded. "We acknowledge your request for diplomatic talks." Hayes nodded. "Before we proceed, I have been instructed to demonstrate something." She turned to someone off-screen. "Activate the device." Throughout the capital system, every weapon suddenly went offline. Defense ships lost power to their weapon systems. Orbital platforms couldn't fire. Even the personal weapons carried by security forces stopped working. The effect lasted just 30 seconds, but the message was clear. Humans could have chosen war, and they would have won easily. "Now that we understand each other," Hayes continued when the weapons came back online, "my government proposes new peace talks to be held in neutral space with equal representation for all parties." The council chamber erupted in angry shouts and frightened whispers. Some demanded immediate surrender to human terms. Others called for a last stand against the human threat. Minister Grax raised his hands for silence. "Captain Hayes, your demonstration is convincing. But why should we trust humans now? You disappeared for 2 years, built weapons we cannot defend against, and now you want peace." Hayes smiled slightly. "We never wanted war, Minister. 2 years ago, we left because the terms offered were not fair. We needed time to ensure that when we returned to the table, we would be treated as equals. By building weapons," someone shouted. "By advancing our technology," Hayes corrected. "The same technology that we're now offering to share, at least some of it, as part of a fair peace agreement." This caught everyone's attention. Human technology had jumped ahead by centuries in just 2 years. What they could offer would change life across the galaxy. "We request permission to send a diplomatic team to present our proposal," Hayes said. "We believe it will benefit all species, not just humans." After a brief discussion, Grax nodded. "Permission granted. We will prepare for formal talks." As the transmission ended, the council fell into deep debate. The Draxon representative, a war-loving species, pounded the table. "This is clearly a trick. We should gather our forces and attack Earth now, before they grow even stronger." Others disagreed. "Did you miss the part where they shut down all our weapons with a single device?" asked the Nilarian ambassador. "War would be suicide." An economic advisor presented a report on a small screen. "These are projections of what would happen if humans shared even basic technology with us." The numbers were staggering. Advances in medicine, energy, transportation, all would improve life for billions across the galaxy. Minister Grax studied the report carefully. Then he made his decision. "We will hear the human proposal," he announced. "And this time, we will listen carefully." 3 days later, a human diplomatic shuttle docked at the council station. As Ambassador Peter Ross stepped out to meet the council representatives, he carried a small data device that contained humanity's terms. The real negotiations were about to begin. The Grand Council chamber looked very different now compared to 2 years ago. The huge circular table remained the same, but the mood had changed completely. When humans first came here, they had been treated as newcomers begging for a place among the stars. Now, all eyes watched Ambassador Peter Ross with a mixture of fear and respect. Ross was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair at his temples. He wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol over his heart. Behind him stood 4 other humans, each an expert in different areas: science, military, trade, and culture. Minister Grax opened the session. "Ambassador Ross, the Council welcomes you and is prepared to hear the terms Earth wishes to propose. Ross nodded politely. Thank you, Minister. Let me be clear from the start. We are not here to demand or threaten. We are here to build a lasting peace that benefits all species. He activated a small device that projected a three-dimensional star map showing the known galaxy. Certain areas glowed blue, representing human space. First, we propose equal representation on the Council for Humanity. Ross began. 1 vote, the same as any other member species. This was expected. The Council members nodded. Second, we request free access to all established trade routes, with the same rights and responsibilities as other spacefaring races. Again, this seemed reasonable to most. Third, we propose mutual defense agreements. If any Council member is attacked, all respond. This includes attacks on human worlds. Some murmurs at this, but nothing too negative. And finally, Ross continued, we offer to share some of our technological advances with all Council races. The room grew absolutely silent. This was what everyone had been waiting for. Specifically, we will share our advances in medicine, sustainable energy production, and food growth. These technologies will help billions of beings across the galaxy live better lives. A Zexorian representative raised a hand. And what of your new ship technology? The ability to appear and disappear at will. Ross shook his head gently. Our slip space technology remains classified for now, as does our defensive systems technology. Angry voices rose from several delegates. The Draxon representative stood, his scaled skin turning red with emotion. This is unacceptable, he shouted. You cannot keep such power for yourselves alone. It threatens all other species. Ross remained calm. We developed this technology independently. After we were forced to leave these negotiations, we have demonstrated that we will not use it aggressively, but we will not give up our advantage entirely. The debate raged for hours. Some Council members, especially those from militaristic species like the Draxons, demanded that humans share all their technology. Others, seeing the benefits of what humans offered, argued for accepting the terms. During a break in the talks, Minister Grax approached Ross in a private room. Your terms are difficult for some to accept, Grax said. The Draxon Imperium is calling for rejection and preparation for possible conflict. Ross sipped water from a glass. That would be unwise. I know, Grax admitted, but pride is a powerful force among many species, including humans, Ross agreed. Yet here we are, offering peace instead of using our advantage to dominate. Grax studied the human carefully. Why? With your technology, you could take what you want. Because that's not who we are, Ross said simply. We want partners, not subjects. Trade, not tribute. We learned long ago on Earth that true peace comes only from mutual respect. When the session resumed, economic advisors presented their analysis. The technology humans offered would solve food shortages on 17 worlds. Their medical advances would save billions of lives each year. Their energy systems would end resource wars that had raged for generations. Against these benefits, the risk of rejecting human terms seemed foolish, even to the most hardline Council members. As the day ended, a tentative agreement began to take shape. The galaxy was changing, and at its center stood the humans, a species that had been dismissed as backward just 2 years earlier. 3 years had passed since humans walked away from the peace table. Now they stood in a place no one could have imagined back then. Earth itself hosted the final signing ceremony for the new Galactic Cooperation Treaty. The ceremony took place in an open-air amphitheater in Geneva, Switzerland. Blue skies stretched overhead, and mountains rose in the distance. Many alien visitors needed special breathing equipment in Earth's atmosphere, but none complained. Being invited to Earth was a rare honor. Ambassador John Miller, the man who had led the human walkout 3 years ago, now stood beside Council High Minister Zora Olix, a Nilarian who had replaced Grax after the negotiations. Together they approached the central podium. 3 years ago, I removed my translator, and walked away from talks that would have limited humanity's future. Miller said to the gathered representatives from over 30 spacefaring species, "Today, I am proud to welcome you as true partners in a new era of cooperation." Minister Olix spoke next. "The Council made a grave error in underestimating humans. We saw them as newcomers to be controlled rather than allies to be embraced. That mistake nearly cost us everything. Today, we correct that error." The treaty they signed established humans as a major power within the galactic structure. Human representatives would sit on all council boards. Human ships would patrol trade routes alongside alien vessels. Human technology would help solve problems across the galaxy. In return, the other races offered knowledge, resources, and access to worlds humans had never seen. It was a fair exchange that benefited everyone. After the signing, Miller and Olix activated the Galactic Cooperation Monument together. The tall crystal structure lit up with a soft blue glow. At its base, words in many languages formed a simple message. True peace comes from mutual respect. In orbit above Earth, representatives from allied worlds gathered on observation decks of the space station Unity to witness a special demonstration. The newly commissioned human flagship, the U.S. Discovery, prepared for its first public slip space jump. The massive vessel hung against the blackness of space, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. Unlike the warships of other races, it carried scientific equipment alongside its defensive systems. This ship was built to explore. "Attention all observers," came the voice of Captain Sam Ellis over the communication system. "We will now demonstrate controlled slip space technology. Please watch the main viewing area." The alien visitors pressed close to the windows. Many had traveled for weeks just to see this moment. The Discovery seemed to shimmer slightly. Then, in a way that hurt the eyes to watch, it folded inward upon itself. In less than a second, it was simply gone. No flash, no sound, just empty space where a giant ship had been. "Remarkable," whispered a Vraxian military attaché to Commander Greg Phillips, his human guide. "How did your people achieve in 3 years what other species couldn't in centuries?" Phillips smiled. "Sometimes the best motivation is being told what you can't do." 5 minutes later, the Discovery reappeared exactly where it had been. The journey had taken it to the edge of the solar system, and back in less time than it took to drink a cup of coffee. That evening, as the alien delegations prepared to depart, Ambassador Miller stood alone on a balcony overlooking the lights of Geneva. Minister Olix joined him, her tall Nilarian frame casting a long shadow in the evening light. "Your people took a great risk," she said. "Walking away, isolating yourselves, it could have gone very differently." Miller nodded. "We knew that, but we also knew we had to change the relationship. Being treated as junior partners wasn't acceptable." "And now?" Olix asked. Miller gestured to the sky, where ships from a dozen worlds twinkled among the stars. "Now we move forward together. Humans don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want our fair place in it." As night fell completely, the stars grew brighter, no longer distant points of light, but doorways to worlds where human ships now traveled freely, bringing new ideas to a galaxy that had grown too comfortable with the old ways.